Welcome to episode 3 of this transatlantic cruise on board Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas. We've said goodbye to Europe, and in this episode I'll show you what it's like to have spent 9 entire days at sea. Come along with me to find out if I would recommend it or if I would say never again. Much to the concern of some people on board, the captain's forecast from the evening before had come to pass as we all woke to our first morning of 9 days at sea. During the night, the wind had whipped up, the waves had whipped up, and the ship had definitely begun to rock, and it continued like that for much of the day. I always find that on days when sea conditions worsen, ships tend to go noticeably quieter. I think it's probably to do with most people deciding to lay low. Or maybe in this case, because it was formal night, it was just people getting ready for the occasion. The sea conditions didn't bother me, and after a relaxing, lazy day, to find only by casual dining options in breakfast in the Solarium Bistro, lunch in the Park Cafe, and dinner in the Windjammer Buffet, it was time for one of the highlights of the day, one of the ice skating shows. It's called 1977 and it's performed on most of the Oasis class ships. The show was really enjoyable. The performers are so skilled, it's just amazing what they can do on a relatively small ice rink on a rocking ship. Now, I would recommend reservations in advance. It was a pretty packed house, so they can be made in advance on Royal Caribbean's app. And finally, to end the night, the other occasion was a themed all-white party in the promenade. Now, I don't have footage of that, but certainly it seemed to occupy the night for many people. The second of our 9 sea days brought with it a 1-hour time change, clocks going back, and also much improved weather and sea conditions. The event of the morning was a top-tier event for Crown and Anchor loyalty members. That's Royal Caribbean's loyalty programme. Honestly, relative to ones I've attended on other Royal Caribbean ships, it really wasn't very good. At noon, it was time for the captain's daily announcement to update us on where we were in the world.
1 degrees, 13.0 minutes west. If you do not have your global positioning system or GPS with you, this means the nearest land is the island of Madeira. It's part of Portugal. That's astern of us now and behind us, 201 nautical miles away. We passed just to the north of Madeira around midnight last night. The depth of water in this part of the ocean is 16,539 feet deep, or 5,041 meters, and the sea feature that is directly ahead of us now is the Madeira Trench Abyssal Plain.
There was plenty of activity around the Royal Promenade for the afternoon, including various musical acts and also those plentiful sales. I did notice, interestingly, what used to cost $10 when on sale was now being sold 2 for $30. That's inflation for you. Royal Caribbean's Oasis class ships are known for their entertainment, and in particular the fact that each ship tends to have its own Broadway show performed. In the case of Symphony of the Seas, this was Hairspray. It was one of the things I had really looked forward to before going on the cruise, and it absolutely delivered. The cast were excellent, and the standing ovation they got at the end was so well deserved. It was an absolutely packed house. Reservations are essential for this, and certainly they were being checked on the door. Now, it's on a number of times over the course of the 9 days, so ultimately I think everybody will get a chance to see it, but nonetheless, you don't want to miss out, so make those reservations. On day 3 of our 9 sea days, and only part of the way across the Atlantic Ocean, I was a little bit surprised to find that I was already being provided with my certificate of having crossed the ocean. And in addition to that, the Cruise Compass, that's the daily newsletter, was also encouraging people to upload their departure information. Anyways, pushing that out of my mind, I headed off to the main dining room for a leisurely brunch. Really nice menu. Brunch is served on Saturdays and Sundays at least. As we've headed further out into the ocean, we've also been heading on a more southerly route. I think the captain's doing his best to avoid any further storms. And the advantage of that is that the weather is getting progressively better day on day. So for the afternoon, temperatures were really pleasant, lovely warm sunshine, plenty of sunbathing opportunities, and plenty of chance to explore all that the upper decks have to offer. The courts that you can see there in this footage have been pretty active throughout the course of the cruise. So there's been a variety of things organised there, from beanbag tosses to table tennis, basketball tournaments, soccer tournaments, and every morning and evening there's usually yoga classes on as well. I tried my hand at mini golf while on the top deck. After that, I briefly toyed with the idea of going on the zip line. Hadn't quite worked up the courage at this stage. Wait and see if I do for the rest of the cruise. The flow riders, there's 2 of them on the top deck, were also in action. For anybody wanting to take a shortcut between the sun decks and the boardwalk, yes, 10 decks down below, you could try the ultimate abyss slide. Looks like a pretty frightening proposition, but many people seem to really enjoy it. Now, there are some restrictions as regarding minimum height and so on, so parents, just be aware of that in case your children are disappointed. Of the 2 flow riders, one is used for boogie boarding and for more inexperienced surfers, and the other for more advanced enthusiasts. Now, they are open sessions. People simply queue up, although they do have to sign a waiver in advance. It is also possible to book private lessons at an upcharge. There was plenty of entertainment on offer for the evening. For me, I passed my time by going to see the headliner act in the theatre. That was a Spanish magician and illusionist. And after that, I popped into the On Air Club to watch the karaoke session for a while. The On Air Club is quite disappointing, and relative to, say for example, the music hall on the Royal Caribbean Quantum class ships, it's a space that doesn't really work terribly well for karaoke or for game shows. Anyways, after that, another event of the evening was the Love and Marriage game show, always hilarious. As our 4th sea day rolled around, I had planned on breakfast on a sunny balcony. Unfortunately, the weather didn't quite cooperate with that plan. Nonetheless, I had ordered room service breakfast, and you can see the menu choice there on screen. Continental breakfast room service is provided free of charge, so that's always a nice treat. Royal Promenade isn't too busy today. People find their own spaces to filter out all over the ship as the days pass by. The kiosk that you can see there is actually the Starbucks on board. Now, a number of mornings during the cruise, there was an event called Coffee with the Officers, or Meet the Officers, and that was basically an opportunity for people to just have a chat with senior officers who were hanging around the place. Coffee was at your own expense, though, as far as I know. Later, I headed to Studio B for an ice skating session. Now, you do have to sign up in advance because it is numbers controlled on the ice at any given time. Safety equipment is provided, helmets, knee pads, they're all available. And you do have to sign a waiver in advance. There haven't been too many sessions scheduled, so keep an eye on the cruise compass. Later, it was time for the more mundane activity of laundry. Now, Royal Caribbean don't have self-service laundry facilities on any of their ships, so in the event that you need to do laundry, you do need to avail of their service. Generally, what happens on cruises of over 5 days, they will have a special offer once in the cruise. In this case, it was a full laundry bag. It's a paper bag that you fill as much as possible for $34.99. There is also a discount for loyalty members, so I availed of that. Later, I headed to the main dining room for dinner. This evening's menu was a taste of the USA. Royal Caribbean introduced a whole new series of menus earlier this year, with each themed on a nightly basis. So there's, for example, a Caribbean evening, there's French evening, and so on. It hasn't proven popular with everyone, and it has meant that the standard items that were always available every night, they're actually no longer on the menu. So that's a little bit disappointing. There was plenty going on around the ship after that, and I went to watch a game show in the On Air Club and followed that up with watching the Dancing with the Stripes competition in Studio B. I was happy to find that our 5th sea day brought with it a return to sunshine and blue skies. We're also now past the halfway point in the Atlantic. according to the captain's lunchtime announcement, and the nearest land is 1,000 kilometres away in Bermuda. So because it was such a lovely day, it was a really nice chance to check out the walking and running track, which is down on deck 5. I really like it in this location. It's much different to so many ships nowadays that tend to have the running track on the top sun decks, where you're basically having to navigate around people on their sun loungers. So it's a lovely space. You're down closer to the water. You really get to enjoy the waves and just the overall sensation of being at sea. There are also a couple of seating areas as well at various locations. There's what people term to be a secret door, which leads up directly to the gem. And there's also table tennis and shuffleboard on deck 5. For lunch, I opted to go to Jamie's Italian, which is one of the specialty restaurants located in Central Park. Now, a little bit like the dinner menus in the main dining room, the menu here in Jamie's has also changed since my last outing on Royal Caribbean. The menu options have been reduced quite a bit, but the price has gone up. But a top tip, the lunch offering is always much better value, much cheaper than the dinner offering, and the menus aren't too dissimilar. Now, after that, one of the highlights of the evening was another one of Royal Caribbean's production shows. So this one was called Dare to Dream, and it's loosely based around being a celebration of the aviation industry, right from the first flight to astronauts going into space. It's an unusual concept, but it was beautifully done. The performances were just absolutely outstanding. The majority of the songs were popular and well known, and then there were also a number that I think were especially written for the show. Now, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what the finale is like, which is really fantastic and showcases the size of the Royal Theatre, look away now. This is another of the shows that does absolutely need to be reserved in advance, so again, that can be done on the app. Very much necessary. It was another packed house, and inevitably it was another standing ovation for the cast. Very well deserved. And for the 4th time on this trip, the night ended with another time change. Our 6th sea day brought with it reasonably good temperatures, but grey skies and drizzle. And I think that resulted in the activities staff coming up with a lot of ingenuity in terms of the activities programme for the day, because so many of the passengers were inside as opposed to enjoying the sun decks. Now, some of those things included an extra performance by an illusionist that we had seen earlier in the cruise. That was a lunchtime performance. And also the egg drop challenge. I don't know if this is a staple of transatlantic cruises. Perhaps let me know in the comments below. But it was really fascinating to watch the ingenuity of that.
Let's go!
For dinner, I decided to try out Playmakers, which is the sports bar on the boardwalk. Now, it's really a hive of activity when there are popular games being shown, but this evening it happened to be pretty quiet. So I got to sample their menu and try out their legendary dessert, which is the campfire cookie. It didn't disappoint. There is an upcharge for this. It's a la carte pricing, but generally it's pretty good value. Now, the thing I found most odd was the sensation of sitting there looking out on this rain-soaked boardwalk, and actually, because the ship is so big, just having a feeling as if I was actually on a wet boardwalk on land. Very odd. The good weather returned for our 7th day at sea. So a range of activities today included, firstly in the morning, attending the captain's question time. Now that was held in the Royal Theatre and it was pretty well attended. It's always really interesting when the captain of a ship and his senior officers are willing to answer questions posed by the audience, so I would recommend attending one if it's on your sailing. After that, I attended a hair demonstration in the Vitality Spa, and what you're seeing on screen here is just a couple of photos of the actual spa cafe. Just a reminder that that's actually a really useful place to beat the queues at other cafes if you want to get something quick. As you might expect, if you attend a demonstration in the spa area, there will inevitably be a fair degree of upselling. So there were only about 7 people at the actual hair demonstration, and I don't think any of us actually managed to walk out of there without getting ourselves booked in for an appointment with the hairstylist. In my case, it was a keratin treatment and there was supposed to be a free haircut thrown in. After that, I had a late lunch in the Park Cafe. It's always nice when it gets quieter there after the main lunchtime rush. In terms of Central Park itself, I'm just endlessly fascinated by this space at the heart of a ship in the middle of the ocean. And while the pool deck can be really noisy and loud music and so on a sea day, and particularly a sunny sea day, Central Park is a much more calm oasis. But the best oasis is my sunny balcony. Perfect sunny day balcony view. Only 2 more sea days left until Nassau in the Bahamas. Time has gone very, very quickly. Evening time of sea day 7, the 8th of November 2023. It's been about 25 degrees today, blue skies and sunshine. It was back to the main dining room this evening for a taste of the Caribbean menu. Now, in terms of dining choices on Royal Caribbean, when you're actually making your booking, you will get a choice of choosing anytime dining or choosing between an early or late seating. Personally, I always choose anytime dining. I just like that flexibility. Even if that's what you choose, you can actually make a reservation in advance. In this particular instance, I hadn't made a reservation, but really there wasn't any line at all. So what anytime dining means is that you will go whenever you want within the dining hours between 5:30 and 9:30, and you will then be seated at a table of your choice. You can either opt to share a table or you can have a table size that you wish. If you opt for fixed dining at either the early or the late seating, you will be at an assigned table in a particular area of the dining room with the same table every night. Some people prefer this because they like to build up a relationship with the wait staff. I don't find that it makes any difference, and I don't think it adds or detracts from the overall service provided. After dinner, I went to the show in the main theatre as usual. It was a little bit disappointing. It was a guest performer who was a singer who did impressions of other singers. And while he was reasonably talented, he performed to backing tracks, and it honestly came across as being a kind of karaoke session on the stage, which was a little bit disappointing. Nonetheless, after that, it was a beautiful evening to head out and capture some footage of this stunning ship at night time. It's hard to believe it's our second last sea day already. So the activity this morning was another parade on the Royal Promenade. Now essentially it's the same one that was on last week, but I had a different vantage point this time, so quite interesting to see. What's really amazing is the fact that this apparently happens on a weekly basis. So all of those people, the activity staff, the kids club staff, they all participate in this. So it's a really, really phenomenal effort that goes into it week on week. At midday, the International Men's Belly Flop competition attracted a pretty big crowd on the sun deck. Later in the afternoon, it was the crew talent show and a surprise first guest, the captain of the ship. According to the captain's midday announcement, we are about 300 actual miles from Bermuda, south of Bermuda, about 850 actual miles, not nautical miles, to go to Nassau in the Bahamas, and the nearest ship in the vicinity apparently is on their radar system as being 22 nautical miles away, and it's a cargo ship. Other than that, it's just the Symphony of the Seas out here in 25-degree sunshine and lovely calm seas. Not bad for the 9th of November. Something that I forgot to mention in my cabin tour was my decision on which side of the ship to choose a cabin on. So I'm on the port side. That's basically the left-hand side of the ship as you're facing forward. And my reasoning for choosing this is because heading west as we are across the Atlantic, it means that I am on the sunny side of the ship, which was just fantastic for sunsets. My main plan for entertainment this evening was going to see another of the ice shows. This time it was called Ice Skate. Now, it wasn't possible to make reservations for this, and the result was that even going down about 15 minutes beforehand, it was actually full at that stage. Thankfully, there was actually a second showing, and I made sure to get there in time. In between, I popped in to see the second half of Hairspray. As this was about the fourth performance, I think, of it throughout the cruise, it wasn't necessary to have reservations at this stage, so not a problem in going in, and it was just as good as the first time. It's hard to believe that we're already at day 9 of our 9 sea days. We're almost in Florida, although we do have a stop in the Bahamas tomorrow. En route to the dining room for a sea day brunch, which I've become very fond of on this trip, I came across the Veterans Tribute which was going on the Royal Promenade. That was very well attended, and a number of people seemed quite emotional by it. I think Royal Caribbean generally do a really good job of having a tribute like this, and it was good to see that the majority of people also observed the minute's silence. I have to admit, because this was the last day at sea, I felt I deserved to spend it in as lazy a way as possible. Now, there was a little bit of exploring the final nooks and crannies around the ship, just finding things that I mightn't have come across earlier in the cruise. One thing was the piano stairway, which is on the way to the Windjammer. Now, I have to admit, I took the lift most of the time going from my cabin on deck 7 up to the Windjammer on the upper decks, so I hadn't been on that stairs before. Other places, finding some of the other restaurants around the ship, Azumi for example, not my type of food, but nice to see the venue, and also the Crown and Anchor Society Lounge, which was my first time as a Diamond passenger being able to access that area. Out on the boardwalk, I went to check out Sugar Beach, which is the sweet shop on board. This was actually my first time venturing in there on the cruise. It's probably just as well, because it had such a sweet array. My sweet tooth probably couldn't have coped if I had found it on day 1. After that, I spent a quiet afternoon relaxing in my favourite place, my sun-drenched balcony. And now, at the end of that 9th consecutive sea day, it's time to return to the question that I posed at the beginning. Would I recommend a transatlantic with 9 sea days, or would I go never again? The answer is a resounding yes, 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 I would recommend it. Despite the fact that the weather wasn't ideal for a couple of days, and that we did have some rough seas for probably a day and a half, I certainly didn't mind that. It's part of the experience. I've really loved every minute of it, and I think this was the perfect ship to do it on. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button. And if you'd like to follow along on some of my other cruises, please consider subscribing to the channel. For now, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.